Kevin's ready to say goodbye, potentially new laws on the horizon for life coaches, and Ruby Frankie's traffic stop before she went in the slammer. Let's talk about all those things in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there. Bam, bam, Ross goes back there on the sofa. And my name's Paul if you're new to the channel or if you simply just don't know my name. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be discussing a few updates in the Ruby Frankie / Jody Hildebrandt / 8 passengers / connections case that's going on. And the way we'll do that is we're going to be just reviewing a couple of articles and whatnot. Now, before we do jump into all of that, if you want to follow me out on the old, something outside of YouTube, on the old Instagram, well, it's right here on the old screen. Go on, click the link below. It's down in the description. Me and Roscoe hang out over there. It's a little bit more of a personal vibe over there, and with some true crime stuff mixed in too. So go on, give it a follow. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick little 60-second overview of this case for people who might be new to the case and are not sure what it is. Then we'll jump into the current updates. So on August 30th, Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt, they were arrested and charged with numerous child charges. Now, this came after one of Ruby's children escaped Jody's home. They went to a neighbor's house. Now, the neighbor calls the authorities. This kind of went viral, this heartbreaking clip of the 911 call. But the child seemed malnourished. They seemed frightened, obviously, and they appeared to have been tied up. They had wounds on them. Now, this unearthed a nightmare that the children had been living through, Jody and Ruby being at the center of it. Now, Jody and Ruby are business partners. They were. Ruby had a very successful family vlog channel. It's called 8 Passengers, and it was taken down, obviously, in the midst of all of this. Now, she and Jody also worked on Connections. This is a website. Basically, it's touted as like a mental fitness life coaching type thing. You can take all of these classes, but honestly, to me, it's really just like this abusive, cultish type vibe beneath the surface. Now, Kevin Frankie, who we're going to be talking about today, that is Ruby's husband, although one of the updates is he has filed for divorce. Now, keep in mind that he had not been at the house, I believe his attorney said, for 13 months. So he has not been charged with any of these crimes. Okay, so now that we're all on the same page, let's go ahead and talk about the first update, and that is the divorce. Now, I'm just going to put on the screen here the article that I'm going to be talking about and referencing. As you see here, it says Kevin Frankie files for divorce from disgraced YouTube star Ruby Frankie amid child abuse allegations. And this is by Liam Quinn. It was published on November 30th, 2023. So like I said, Kevin recently has filed for divorce. Now, under Utah law, this has been sealed. There's also a domestic relations injunction filed. Now, this covers a few different things, a couple of which are for Ruby and Kevin not to disparage each other in front of the children or to harass each other or harm each other, obviously. Now, I'm going to talk about some of my overall thoughts on the divorce and Kevin making this decision and whatnot, but let's go ahead and segue into some of the potential laws that could be coming, bills that might be drafted about life coaching and how it's overseen. So an article I'm going to be referencing here, you'll see the title here. It says 8 Passengers Case Leads Utah Lawmaker to Argue for Better Overseeing of Life Coaches. This is by Paul Nelson from KUTV. It was published Monday, November 27th. So in the midst of all this, in light of all this, Kevin Frankie has asked Senator David Hinkins to look into the qualifications that one has to go through or have to be a life coach. And spoiler alert, you don't have to have any of them. Now, they are citing the Connections Classroom website as, listing Ruby Frankie as being like a certified mental fitness training person. And, honestly, cannot roll my eyes hard enough at that. Keep in mind the Twin Flames debacle and the certified Twin Flames people. This is like anybody can call themselves anything at this point, right? Now, I want to put up here on the screen a quote from this article that the senator said. You'll see here on the screen, it quotes him as saying, "It's just a title that somebody can make up and makes it sound professional when it's really probably not," Hinkins said. "There are some online classes that people can take on company websites that offer what they call mental fitness training. However," Hinkins said, "state law allows Frankie to call herself that, whether she's taken the classes or not." Now, so far, the Utah Division of Licensing has declined to comment until there's like an actual bill drafted, but they did have this to say, and I'm going to put up another little clip from that article to quote them. You'll see on the screen here the fourth paragraph down. It says, life coaches are not required to be licensed in Utah. Therefore, there are no standards for the industry. There are a few national life coach consortiums that have some standards, but none that are enforceable in Utah yet. We do see some complaints that are against life coaches who are former licensed behavioral health practitioners who lost a license and are now practicing as life coaches, but are providing the same services as when they were licensed, which is illegal. Now, let's talk about a couple of those things before we move on to Ruby Frankie's traffic stop and talk about that. Okay, so let's start with the most recent thing, this bill and whatnot. 100%, y'all, if we need to get the squad together and go to Utah and speak on behalf, let's do it. I figured that this was one of the situations where there was no regulations over these, and I'm guessing that this is the same case in state to state to state. It is shocking to me how many life coaches you see out there. And I'm specifically thinking of TikTok, okay? I see so many people touting themselves as these semi-quasi, life coach, this and the other. And it's always this very slippery, trying to sound like a therapist kind of a person. And I just absolutely disagree with this. To me, at this point, when I see a life coach, it is a red flag. And for this very reason right here, because there's no regulation, and just like they said, oftentimes people who have had their licenses taken away are just now sliding under here, calling themselves a life coach, and continuing operating when they've had their licenses revoked. So just like any other thing, it's like, why wouldn't this be regulated? Now, also, I'm not one to sit here and be like, everything needs to be overregulated by the government and licensing. I'm not for that either. But when we start seeing case after case after case like this, something needs to be done, especially when it's dealing with mental health and things of that nature. It's just, we don't need just any old person saying, yeah, I'm qualified to tell you how to run your life, when clearly, look at Ruby and Jody. These are like the last two humans that need to give anyone advice on anything, okay? Now, let's talk about the divorce real quick. Okay, couple of just right off the rip thoughts. Is it the proper thing to do at this point? 100%, right? Come on. First of all, he hasn't had any charges, right? Now, if you follow this case, you'll know, he wasn't at the house, and that's kind of this weird, okay, so Jody told you not to go, so you didn't, and there's a lot of opinions out there on that, but it was what was made, and so there's that. He hasn't been charged, and we'll see what all comes from that. So, yes, you would naturally think that if you went through this with your spouse and you found out that your spouse was doing this to your children, that you would be like, yeah, dumb, bye, okay? Now, that being said, and this whole thing of well, this, Jody did this, and, because it's a life coach, and, Ruby, kind of fell for it, hook, line, sinker, and all this, I don't buy that, okay? There was a lot more going on here. Some of this behavior that was in these videos that they were doing and whatnot when Kevin was around was very, not cool, okay? Now, this that we saw take place that Ruby was doing with Jody and whatnot, I'm not trying to say Kevin was part of that. I don't know what he knew or didn't know. I wasn't there. I don't know these people personally. But again, just the same with life coaching, these family vlog channels, the monetization of just the family is very weird. There's no laws. When you get into Hollywood, there's all these laws with child actors and stuff like that to prevent them from being exploited, but you don't have that when it's your own kids. You know what I'm saying? Again, I would have divorced her a long time ago, to be quite honest. I would run screaming for the hills. So, totally get it. I don't personally think she's going to see the light of day for quite some time. And she definitely doesn't need to be around her kids from the things that I've seen her do to those children. Okay, so let's talk about that traffic stop. Now, this took place several days or something like that right before she was actually arrested. Now, it's blurred out, and you probably can't really even see it in this footage. There's a couple of people in the car, they think it was children. But what I want you to do is just pay attention to her body language, and we'll talk about it afterward. Notice the window, how she does it and whatnot. Now, I'm not going to fault her for some things because I get it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But knowing what we know about Ruby now, just look through that filter as we watch it, and then we'll talk when we reconvene.
Hello. You know how fast you're going right there? No. Okay. Got you going 57 and a 35. I'll be back real quick. Okay, here's your info back. The citation for speed. Got you going 57 and a 35. I wrote you down for a 50. You have 5 days and no more than 14 to contact Santa Clara Justice Court. It shows right there in that little box right there. And then just has a phone number right there. Okay, have any questions for me? No. Okay, just slow down for me, please. Thank you.
No. Okay, so a couple of things I noticed. First of all, and this is the thing I was saying I don't fault her. So notice how she has her window rolled down just a tiny bit. Now, I can understand this as well because it's like, you know what, it's nighttime. This is a female, here's a male. In this day and age, you never know. You know what I'm saying? So I get that. I'm not faulting her for that, but in the context of everything with her, you know, I'm just like, of course. So then she barely looks at him, offers one answer. No. You know, again, I'm also an advocate for, hey, you know what? Don't tell the cops more than you have to. You don't want to tell on yourself, what am I pulling you over for? You list off 10 things. I get it, okay? So I understand that part. But with her, what I'm sitting here thinking is, I'm like, it's eating her alive that somebody has power over her in this moment. You know she cannot stand that. And she probably, and this is just me, this is not fact, this is fiction, this is speculation, but I'm like, this poor kid probably took the brunt of that. Because remember, apparently, allegedly, she has 2 people in the vehicle they believe to be kids. So she's probably also very afraid, I would think deep down, because if she knows that something's wrong with the kids, meaning like maybe there's injuries to them or whatever, she could be very nervous about that. But I also think that in her world, she's probably so entitled and doesn't think what she's doing is wrong that wouldn't register to her. You know, like that would be like, well, that's not wrong. Like that's just the punishment or whatever the case may be with her. But again, she just to me looks so unwell, and I don't know any other word for it, but just like not well. You know, the vacantness of the eyes, that, you know, that lost look. And here again, this is like days before she gets arrested, and it's almost like my God, this person is just like gone, right? Now, I'll be honest, to me, she looked like that even in the heyday of 8 Passengers when you go back and look at the videos, where it's like something's just not, you know, it's like, woohoo, anybody there? You know, kind of a thing, you know. So seeing this, I just thought it was interesting that, you know, she just has this complete attitude. You know, she's going 55 and 35. You know, one single answer to him, so on and so forth. So I thought it was interesting. Want to know what you think. Anyways, overall, what do you think about the divorce? What do you think about Kevin and, you know, him initiating this whole thing about, let's look into, you know, forming a bill about these whole life coach things? You know, I, for one, I'm curious, and I'm going to start looking into what the laws are here in North Carolina. That's where I'm broadcasting from. Because I'm curious to know what they are here. You know, can just any person in any state call themselves a life coach? You know, is it that easy, or is it state to state? I'm very, very curious because it's very, very blurry. I know, like, to become like a legit, you know, you are a psychologist, you are a psychiatrist, you know, legitimate, you go to years of schooling and testing and continue to do so. You know what I'm saying? Like, so these little Cracker Jack, you know, I just got my little thing out of a Cracker Jack box, which it doesn't even sound like you have to put that much effort into doing that. You know, it's just almost, honestly, to me, a slap in the face of those professions that have to go through all of that time. And you have these people coming up that are going to talk about, you know, let me come up with a little 3-hour course and charge money for it and change your life, all while doing the things that they're doing behind the scenes to their children. Anyways, can't roll my eyes hard enough at these two, y'all. Literally turns my stomach. So anyways, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend if you're watching this on the weekend, or a wonderful week if you're watching it during the week. Mr. Roscoe says he doesn't care when you're watching it. He just wants you to drop some sofas down in the comment section so that we can all run down there as fast as we can and talk about this debacle of a case. And until we meet down there to talk about this debacle of a case, we'll see you soon.